Well, hello. Yeah, YouTube gave me a strike on my other channel, which is Madam Whipass Reads. I was reading chapter 12 and 13 of The Kept Ones by Bunny DeBarge. Those are two good chapters. So unfortunately, I'll have to wait a week before I can read chapter 12 and 13 again on that channel. So I figured, why not go live on this channel and start the A Serial Killer's Daughter by Kerri Rawson. She is the daughter of BTK, and it seems like it's going to be real interesting to me. So I'm ready to get started. Let's go. A Serial Killer's Daughter, my story of faith, love, and overcoming by Kerri Rawson. To Darian for loving me without fail, and to Emily and Ian, when you're old enough, I will hand you this story to tell you my story. No, you're not old enough yet, so stop asking. And yes, Mom is finally done with her book. Oh. Alright. Do y'all want me to read the author's note in the prologue? Yeah. It has a whole list of contents. You know what? I want to read every bit of this. So here's the author note. My family and I owe a great debt of gratitude to the following organizations and the people who serve and work for the better good. There are hundreds of people who aided and assisted us over the past 4 decades, including the Wichita Police Department, aka the Keystone Cops, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, the Sedgwick County Sheriff and the Sedgwick County Detention Facility, the Park City Police Department, the El Dorado Correctional Facility, the Sedgwick County District Attorney's Office, and the Sedgwick County Public Defender Office, the City and the Community of Wichita, the Wichita Eagle, and Christ Lutheran Church. Any and all mistakes in the text are mine. Here's the prologue. Stubbornness might be enough. On February 25th, 2005, my father, Dennis Lynn Rader, was arrested for murder. In the weeks that followed, I learned he was the serial killer known as BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill, who had terrorized my hometown of Wichita, Kansas for 3 decades. As he confessed on national television to the brutal killings of 8 adults and 2 children, I struggled to comprehend the fact that the first 26 years of my life had been a lie. My father was not the man I'd known him to be. Since his arrest, I've fought hard to come to terms with the truth about my dad. I've wrestled with shame, guilt, anger, and hatred. I've accepted the fact that I am not a crime victim dating back to the days my mom carried me in her womb. I no longer fight the past nor try to hide it. It just is. It happened and it's terrible. Terrible to dream about, terrible to think about, terrible to talk about. Incalculable loss, trauma, emotional abuse, depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress. These things leave scars. And I struggled with forgiveness, fought for understanding, tried to put the ruptured pieces of my life and my family's life back together. It's an ongoing battle, but hope, truth, and love, the things that are good and right in this world, continue to fight through the darkness and overcome the nightmares. I am a survivor who has found resilience and resistance in faith, courage, and my sure stubbornness to never give up. Kerri Rawson. Part 1. Hold on to your foundations. Therefore, we will not fear through the earth, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Psalm 46:2. Chapter 1, What Doesn't Kill You? That's the title. Noon, Friday, February 25th, 2005, Detroit, Michigan. On the day the world dropped out on me, I woke up late. I had pulled my dark brown hair in a loose scrunchie, and at noon I was still in my mint green fleece pajamas. They'd been a gift from my parents on Christmas morning 2 months earlier, when I was home in Kansas with my husband Darian. This was our second winter living in Michigan, and I'd taken a day off from substitute teaching. I'd been staying home a lot because driving on snow and ice set me on edge. Friday, February 25th, 2005, had begun as just another cold day with snow on the ground and in the air. About 12:30 p.m., I glanced out our picture window to see how much snow had fallen the night before. Not that anyone could tell by late February. It was just a heap of white upon white. I noticed a maroon car, slightly rusted and beat up, parked next to the green dumpster behind our apartment building. A man sat behind the steering wheel and seemed to be glancing up at our window on the second floor. My internal alarms buzzed. Stranger danger. I wasn't expecting Darian to be home until later for lunch, if at all, and as it neared 1 o'clock, I looked again. The man was still there. All right, that does it. I'm calling Darian. Hey, when are you coming home for lunch? My voice was calm enough to fool him. Not sure. Want me to bring you something? Taco Bell? Nah. I paused. I'm calling because a strange old beat-up car is parked by the dumpster. A man is sitting in the car, and I swear he's looking into our window. I was beginning to sound a little panicky, but Darian was unfazed. Our window? Upstairs? Yeah, looking right in it. That's not really possible, but if he's giving you the creeps or something, call the cops. Nah, well, maybe, yeah, if he doesn't leave soon. Okay, I'll be home in a while to eat if I can get away. Swamped here today. We said goodbye, and I looked again, and this time peering through the corner of the blinds like my dad might do. My dad repeatedly taught us to be fearful of strangers, not to open doors to people we didn't know, to be extremely cautious. When I was younger, he worked as a security alarm installer, and I'd always figured that's where he picked up this bit of paranoia. Still, nothing wrong with being smart. Being safe, better than sorry. I peeked again. The car was still there. The man was not. Clank, clank, clank. What happened to the intercom? A visitor buzzing to be let in? Someone must have popped the front door open again. Now my alarms were sounding full force. My heart was speeding up. My skin was growing hot. I was sure the man in the car was now on the other side of the door, which had a simple lock on it, no deadbolt. The house I grew up in had deadbolts, which were always kept locked, no matter the time of day. I'll pretend I'm not home. Clank, clank, clank. Okay, be brave. It's nothing. I propped my wire-rimmed glasses on my head and squinted through the peephole to see a man in his 50s wearing a dress shirt, tie, glasses. I twisted my glasses in my hands and placed them back on my face. Hello, can I help you? I called from my side of the subpar door. Yes, I'm with the FBI. I need to speak with you. Me? The FBI? What about? I need to speak with you. Can you let me in? I'm still in my pajamas, in my bare feet. Dad always said, make them show you a badge. Make them prove to you who they are. Not that anyone ever had approached my door with a badge, but I guess there was a first time for everything. And I opened the door a bit, putting my foot next to it. If he was FBI, he might or might not push his way in. Hard to say based on what I'd seen in movies. He didn't look like FBI. He looked like someone who might do my taxes. Go on, Kerri. So, can I see your ID? Yes. He flipped open his badge and let me study it for a bit and then asked more softly, can I come in? I need to talk with you. Okay, but what the heck? Sure, my husband will be home soon. He's on his way, for lunch. That's another trick Dad taught me long ago. Tell the stranger in your house someone is on the way, even if it's not true. Okay, good. I need to talk to him too. Standing with this guy in my apartment's foyer, I decided he seemed all right. He wasn't even carrying a gun, just a yellow legal pad and a pencil. So much for the movies. What do you need to talk to me about? You've got the right person, right? He glanced down at his notepad and then back up at me. Yeah, think so. Are you Kerri Rawson, maiden name Rader, 26 years old? I nodded. Originally from Wichita, Kansas. Your father is Dennis Rader? Yeah, that's me. My mind was scrambling. Why is this man here? What does he want? I turned to walk toward the kitchen, but the hallway was so narrow, only one person could walk through at a time. I didn't like him behind me, so I stopped and stepped back, allowing him to go in front. My mind tried to find some reason for this man's visit and came up with nothing but sharp white noise and fear. I focused instead on tiny details. The cornflower blue dish towels with bright sunflowers hanging in my white-on-white kitchen, color brought from Kansas to Michigan 18 months before, when Dad had helped us move after the wedding. A chocolate bundt cake with powdered sugar icing sat on the counter. I'd made it the night before. My keys and navy blue purse were next to my cookbooks. A red spiral-bound Betty Crocker was propped up by a box of handwritten recipe cards, favorites from friends and family back home. The man from the FBI was now facing me, his back to the microwave. Have you heard of BTK? What? The room brightened and narrowed, intensified. You mean the guy they are looking for in Wichita, in Kansas? Yes. I hit the panic button. Has something happened to my grandma? Has my grandma been murdered? Your grandma? No, she's fine. Grandma is frail, I said. Keeps falling. My folks have to help a lot. She's been to the hospital this week. BTK murders women. No, it's your dad. What is my dad? He's been arrested. My dad has been what? Arrested. Your dad is wanted as BTK. Wanted for murders in Kansas. My dad is what? BTK. Wanted. Arrested. Can we sit down? I need to ask you some question. My mom, Paula, okay? Has my mom been murdered by my dad? No. She's all right. Safe. She's being picked up right now for questioning. Who is picking her up? The police. They're questioning her. She's okay. My brother Brian, is my brother okay? He's stationed in Groton, Connecticut with the United States Navy. Yes, yes. We are notifying him right now. Who is? The FBI. The man lifted a page on his notepad. I need to question you. It's important. When did you say your husband will be home? The room was spinning. I grabbed at the wall jutting out near the stove. My hand brushed against the smooth stained glass picture hanging there. It was made of vivid purples, pinks, greens, an etched butterfly, and the words, "Love never fails." I heard, "Your dad is BTK." I was shaking all over. I think I'd better sit down. I'm not feeling well. The room turned red. Dark splotches came into view. I was falling into a black hole with no idea of how I was ever going to get out. Wow. What a hell of a first chapter. I guess that's the only way to begin this book, huh, Kerri? Because chapter 2 is Believe in Good Beginnings, June 1981, Wichita, Kansas. That's probably the year she was born. I mean, you could have just walked us into the first chapter and made that chapter something else. But nope, you hit us with it like a ton of bricks. And I guess that's appropriate because that's how it hits you, huh? So you're going to hit us the same way, Kerri. All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. Chapter 2, Believe in Good Beginnings. June 1981, Wichita, Kansas. People who knew my parents before February 25th, 2005 would have told you this. Dennis cherished Paula. My dad will tell you the same, still to this day, but he should have known it wasn't going to be forever. Some of my earliest memories are of music filling the house, spun out from the turntable Dad shipped home from an overseas Air Force deployment years before. As the Carpenters harmonized on "We've Only Just Begun." I always wondered what kind of music BTK would listen to. Dad, do you know the Carpenters? Was it the Carpenters? Or was it Peter, Paul, and Mary? It was either the Carpenters or Peter, Paul, and Mary sang that song. Don't you remember you told me you loved me, baby? Luther Vandross? Yeah, he got that song from, I think, Peter, Paul, and Mary. And I think the Carpenters was the one with the chick who had anorexia. Anyway, Dad would pull Mom close and she'd laugh and they would spin together for a minute or two in the living room, lost, remembering the good times spun early around their song. We've Only Just Begun. That was the song of BTK and his wife. Oh, this book is going to be good. And they dance. I can't imagine BTK being loving with his wife and sharing a dance and reminiscing of the times when they first started dating. And he's just when I see a picture of him, he just looks like a hardened pervert. As a toddler, I'd twirl and clap and wait my turn. When Dad and I danced too, they long to be close to you. They long to be close to you. With my little feet on top of his white socks, I was certain my dad's love for me knew no bounds. Oh, I'm sorry that I'm reading and pausing because knowing who Dennis Rader, her daddy, is, BTK, it's like two different individuals. They are two different individuals. But it's like you just can't imagine him having his little girl sharing a dance with her feet on top of his white socks on his feet, dancing to "They Long to Be Close to You." I just Thank you, Kerri. Those hit singles came out in 1970, shortly before my folks met. Dad, the oldest of four brothers, was the last of them to meet Mom, the oldest of three sisters. At Christ Lutheran Church, my grandma, Dorothea, would say to my mom, "Paula, I've got one more son. You haven't met Dennis yet. Just wait. He will be back home soon." And in the summer of 1966, I hadn't even been born yet. That's me talking. Dad enlisted in the military on his own terms before the draft got him. He traveled happily for 4 years as an Air Force communication linesman to assignments that kept him out of Vietnam, Greece, Turkey, South Korea, and Okinawa, Japan. Dad could shimmy up a power pole effortlessly, installing antennas, wires, and whatever else he needed to rig up with a few flicks of the wrist, a bit of tinkering, and patience. He came home with stories and a box full of photos and souvenirs. His time abroad spent more like a tourist than a sergeant serving in wartime. Two of Dad's brothers fought in the jungles of Vietnam, Paul as a sailor on a Navy PT boat, Bill as a Marine walking the bush, and my uncles didn't talk much about their tours of duty, but it was clear they sure didn't feel like vacations. Dad's youngest brother, Jeff, was spared from having to go to Vietnam. My dad's father, William Rader, grew up in Rader, Missouri, a town founded by my ancestors in the 1800s. Really? There's a Rader, Missouri. BTK's name is Dennis Rader, and his ancestors founded that town in the 1800s. His family later settled in Pittsburgh, Kansas, where he and his siblings worked the family farm. In February 1943, my 20-year-old grandpa joined the Marine Corps. 2 months later, my 17-year-old grandma, who lived in Columbus, Kansas, rode trains out to San Diego, California, to marry her high school sweetheart on his day off from aircraft mechanic training. I always imagined my grandparents dancing to Moonlight Serenade by the Glenn Miller Orchestra, a favorite of Grandma Dorothea's and mine, although the timeless swing tune, "In the Mood," might have been more their speed. They had one night together. Then it was back to the realities of World War II. Sorry, I don't know either of them songs. Maybe it's "I'm in the mood for love." Who knows? Grandpa soon ended up in the Pacific, repairing B-25 bombers that survived enemy fire and somehow made it back to Midway, Ireland. Midway Island. He came home full of stories about crash landings, airplanes full of bullet holes, and life on a 2 square mile atoll in the middle of the ocean. A shore leave rendezvous netted the birth of my dad 9 months later in March 1945. Grandma and my infant father stayed with family in Columbus for a year until Grandma made it back home in March 1946. Grandpa cooked in the mess on the ship as they crossed the Pacific, peeling mountains of potatoes, saying later, "It sure beats swabbing decks." When Dad was little, my grandparents moved to the Riverview area of North Wichita for Grandpa's new job working the graveyard shift at the Ripley plant for Kansas Gas and Electric, KG&E. The red brick smokestacks, standing tall across the little Arkansas River, could be seen from the street where Dad's family settled in a sharp white bungalow with black trim. Dad and his 3 younger brothers slept in bunk beds in one room, where Dad spun stories of cowboys and Indians or cops and robbers as the younger ones drifted off to sleep. The boys walked to Riverview Elementary down a street lined with arching trees, and every autumn they each got a new pair of jeans Grandma patched again and again before she turned them into shorts for summer break. Growing up, the boys spent a lot of time outdoors, roughhousing, fishing, and shooting around the river. In 1960, Grandma took on a calmer day job as a bookkeeper for Leaker's Family Foods. My 15-year-old dad soon joined her as a grocery bagger and stocker. Later, when we all gathered in the fall for Raider family campouts, my dad and uncles would spin story after story from their own boyhood while my cousins and I drifted towards sleep next to a blazing orange campfire. There were war stories and ghost stories, tall tales, and humdingers. My mom's mother, Eileen, graduated from Plainview High School in South Wichita in 1944 and went to work at Boeing. She drove a Cushman cart on the factory floor, delivering parts as B-29 bombers churned out overhead. My mom's father, Palmer, grew up in Waukene, Kansas, and served 2 years in the Pacific as a radio man and Morse code operator with the Army Air Forces. He told us, "Eggs never go bad. We are 2-year-old eggs on those troop ships, and we were happy to have them." We ate 2-year-old eggs on those troop ships, and we were happy to have them. Eggs do go bad. Then again, who knows what they put in these eggs these days? Maybe eggs never did go bad back in the 1940s. Pardon me, I'm becoming hoarse. After the war, Grandma had her eye on a checker at the Safeway grocery store. Granddad had his eye on her too, declaring, "That's the girl I'm going to marry," the first time he saw her in his checkout lane. It still seems up for debate who was chasing whom, but after a few dates, it was all settled. They married 3 months later in 1946. You see, back in those days, people didn't play any games. When they saw what they liked, and they just instinctively knew, that's my wife right there. I don't even know her name. I just see her, and I just see my wife written all over her. And women just be like, "I believe I walked by my husband in the checkout lane today. And then 3 months later, they get married. And they stay married till death do they part. 70 years later. People today can't even stay married for 70 minutes. Mom was born in 1948, lived in Plainview for her first few years, then moved to Park City, a northern suburb of Wichita, growing up 3 miles from Dad. As teenagers, Mom and her sisters, Sharon and Donna, helped out at my grandparents' bakery in Wichita and ran the Park City pool with Grandma. In August 1970, Dad, 25, was just back from the Air Force. He was handsome, okay, Kerri, if you say so. He was handsome, I've seen younger pictures of him when he was 25. You know what? If I didn't know what he was fantasizing about at that age and would potentially carry out his fantasies, and about 3 years later, maybe I could agree that he was handsome. But knowing all that just tarnishes any bit of what's the word? What's the word? Wait. What's that word? Hold on. There's a word for it, I promise. I'm gonna find that word. The word is, bear with me. What is the word? Hold on. The word is that's not the word. Yeah. The image of your 25-year-old father, knowing what he would do approximately 3 years later, it just destroys any type of pulchritudinous that can be attributed to him. That was the word I was looking for. Pulchritudinous. All right. He was handsome and sleek in his dress blues, his dark hazel green eyes crinkling when he smiled. Mom, 22, was a long-legged looker in a go-go dress with dark brown eyes and cropped dark brown hair. They caught each other's eye while standing in the fellowship hall after church let out. Now, see, I could see the beauty in your mom. I could see the pulchritudinous that of which you express concerning your mother. Dad, Mom would tell me, when you know, you know. When you know, huh? But for 30 years, she didn't know. But when she knew, right? Okay. Dad would say it was love at first sight. Plus, she drove a hot car. Dad lived with his folks. Oh, he has a sense of humor. Dad lived with his folks the next several months, attended Butler Community College, and worked part-time at Leakers. Mom lived with her folks and worked as a secretary at the Veterans Administration. My parents got engaged shortly after Christmas 1970, out in the middle of the frozen Arkansas River in downtown Wichita. 2 months later, Mom's red 66 Chevelle, nicknamed Big Red, slid on an icy bridge a block from the church and slammed into another vehicle. Mom broke her back, and Dad rushed to her side at Wesley Hospital, helping her through the recovery. In May 1971, friends and family gathered for my parents' wedding. Mom's sisters stood up with her, wearing sky blue dresses and matching pillbox hats, holding white daisies. Dad's brothers stood up with him, wearing ties and suit coats. Standing before the altar in the church where they met, my mom's aunt sang, "We've only just begun." Dad wore his white suit coat and flubbed the traditional vow of faithfulness, saying, "I plight me your troth." After hearing the story so many times, I still don't know the right way to say it. Mom recited her vows perfectly, standing ramrod straight, her high-collared white lace dress hiding a back brace. And on the evening my parents wed, the sky grew dark, and their wedding cake with blue and yellow flowers almost toppled over in the parking lot. The cake was saved from disaster, and during the reception, Dad, with a mischievous glint in his eye, fed Mom too big of a bite. Mom, with bright, smiling eyes, politely covered her mouth with her hand and then returned the favor. Standing in the doorway of the church, Dad and Mom bid farewell to their friends and family with a wave, and then hand in hand, they ran laughing through a shower of rice and rain out to Big Red, decorated with flowing streamers, trailing cans, and handwritten signs in white shoe polish, wishing love, luck, and happily ever after. Excuse the pause, I'm just taking it all in and processing what I've read about their wedding day. I was looking for some sort of ominous sign. I guess the sky going dark. But then they say if it rains on your wedding day, it's good luck. I don't know if that's black people stuff, but that's what they say. So Paula said, when you know, you know. And Dennis said it was love at first sight. Plus she had a hot car. Sounds perfectly normal to me. All right, I'll keep going. Chapter 3, Hope for Happily Ever After, is June 1971. After their honeymoon, my folks bought a 900 square foot 3-bedroom ranch, white with yellow trim, that was a block away from Mom's parents. A mid-1950s brick home, it had an identical floor plan to the house Mom grew up in. Well, on their way to the American dream, my parents tucked away their bone-white wedding china in paper-lined cabinets and bought kitchen appliances in the shade of avocado. Mom hung brown and cream wallpaper in their kitchen and sewed light blue curtains out of durable fabric for their big picture window in the living room. Blue pictures, handed down from Dad's grandmother, Kerri, decorated end tables. Records were stacked together next to Dad's turntable. Mom was glad to have her parents so close and wistfully hoped to have children toddling around on her hardwood floors. And while finishing college, Dad took a second shift plant job at the Coleman Company. He quit after graduating with an associate's degree in the electronics, from Burla in the summer of 1972. He spent 6 years in the plant, 2 years in the plant, 1 year 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 in the plant, started at the Cessna Aircraft Company in early 1973, working in the electrical tool and die section, a job he enjoyed and that fit his growing skill set. Mom kept working at the VA as a secretary, her nimble hands flying over her typewriter and taking dictation in precise shorthand that would require an expert code breaker to crack. After work, Angelo's became a favorite place to split a pizza, followed by a movie at the Crest. The first and last scary movie Mom saw with Dad was a re-screening of the 1967 film Wait Until Dark. I can imagine Mom holding tight onto Dad's arm, saying firmly, "From now on, I pick the movie." Dad also learned Mom wasn't into camping after a night trying to weather a thunderstorm at Wilson Lake. Mom tells a story of huddling together in an army green canvas tent that smelled like a mangy old mutt when a park ranger shone a flashlight on them, warning of an approaching tornado. She still says about that night, "I told your dad that was it. He was on his own to camp from then on." Well, if you know the BTK story, you know why I paused right there. I grew up on these stories, how my parents met, married, and spent their early happy life together. These stories became canon in my life, solid ground I would anchor my own beliefs of the world on. I wish I could continue telling just these stories right up to the ever after. It's what I was expecting, depending on. Dad desired his good side, white hat life, but he also wanted his dark side, black hat life. Why couldn't his good side be the black hat life? Why does his dark side, the bad side, why can't that be his white hat life? Why does everything negative have to be contributed to darkness, being black? Maybe BTK is his white side. He went to great lengths over the next 3 decades to maintain these two lives next to each other, hiding his second life from everyone. Eventually, though, his second life caught up with his first, exposing his own terrible truths. Dad didn't just decide one day to commit murder. Nope. Bear with me for 1 second, please. I'm just checking. I just need to check. See if things are still going on. Okay, I can continue. Dad didn't just decide one day to commit murder. The decision would build in him, growing over the course of his first 29 years of life. After he was arrested, Dad spoke of hidden, deviant behavior dating back to his early years. Spying, stalking, breaking and entering, theft, animal torture. He told of an immense fantasy world built around violence, bondage, and sadism. He read about notorious criminals and idolized them, adding their narcissistic murderous actions to his own evil ideals. He twisted all this together in his head. Fact, fiction, half-truths, downright lies. And out of it came his Factor X. He thought he could control it, stop it at any time. But he couldn't have been more wrong. November 1973. Y'all, please forgive me for being hoarse. I've been reading for a couple of hours. Forgive me. And I need to take a break. But of course I can't play any music. You wanna know why? Because if I play music, you know what these suckers are gonna do? They're going to flag me. That's what they're gonna do. So I'm gonna keep going. November 1973. Hello, one person. Can you come in the chat and just say hello for me, please? Just say hi, wave your hand. That's all. In the fall of 1973, Dad was laid off from the Cessna Aircraft Company. He liked his job. It paid well, and losing it started a downward spiral within him that would lead to immense outward devastation. Angry, idle, and antsy, he escalated, breaking into area homes and attempting to kidnap a woman at the Twins Lake Mall. There's like a footnote there. You know, it has a little 3 next to Twins Lake Mall. Let me see something real quick, if I can find out what that 3 signifies, or if there's like more information to it, because it's a footnote there. Bear with me for a second. Just checking. There's some notes in the back. I just want to know what that little 3 means. Number 3. And I'm in chapter, bear with me. I'm in chapter 3. And there's a little 3 after Twin Lakes Mall. Chapter 3. Oh, so that's reference. I've been reading way too much. It references the other book I bought by Kerri Rawson, Confessions of a Serial Killer, The Untold Story of Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer. That's Dennis Rader speaking himself through that book. And so the 3 means she got that information from Ramsland's book on page 24. Okay. I just need to research that real quick. I like to know shit, you know? Alright. Where was I? Oh, in January 1974, Dad murdered Joseph and Julie Otero and their 2 youngest children, Josie, age 11, and Joey, age 9. The 3 older Otero children found their families' bodies after walking home from school. Dad then became a wanted man who lived every day of the next 31 years as a betrayal, as a lie. After the Otero murders, Dad started classes at Wichita State University. Yeah, well, commit quadruple murder and then go and enroll in college. After the Otero murders, Dad started classes at Wichita State University, WSU, pursuing a bachelor's degree in administration of justice, studying law enforcement. Dad kept his own ironic, nefarious agenda hidden. Attending college became a cover story for Dad at times. He'd tell Mom he was headed to the campus library to study while he was actually out trolling for victims. In April 1974, Dad murdered Catherine Bright, a 21-year-old who lived near the WSU campus, and he fought with her 19-year-old brother Kevin, shooting and almost killing him. That fall, Dad sought notoriety, contacted the Wichita Eagle, claiming responsibility for the Otero murders and calling himself BTK for bind, torture, and kill. He also started working at ADT, installing security systems, capitalizing on the fear and opportunity he created, and giving himself access and cover because no one pays attention to utility vans and work uniforms, working days and attending evening classes. Dad was gone long hours and late nights. To get him through college, Mom often typed and sometimes even helped write his thesis papers. Because he didn't know how to write. He only knew how to bind, torture, and kill. And draw pictures about it. As my father studied justice and worked in security, he stole those very things from the Otero and Bright families. He also grew overprotective of his own family. Dad's self-induced twisted insanity of overcaution and suspicion permeated my home for the next decades. We never had a security system, but we did have ADT stickers on the doors and thin metallic tape outlining our back door's window, which Dad told me was enough to fool the bad guys. And after his arrest, Dad said about this time, I became overly defensive. I watched the road outside and had a loaded gun ready. I made sure our locked windows were secure, probably like everyone else in Wichita. Was he protecting himself from himself? Amazing how you can be married to a monster and have a father as a monster for decades and just never know, never see the monster. Never see him. But then again, maybe there's some red flags that were there that, Kerri missed. Let me keep reading. So far, in the book, they never saw the monster. Okay. My green-eyed, blonde-haired brother, Brian. I never knew the brother's name. Brian Rader. Arrived on a July evening in 1975. After struggling for 3 years to conceive, my folks were thrilled to be parents. Oh, they had Brian in 1975. Mom named Brian after the pro football player Brian Piccolo. I remember Brian Piccolo. Didn't he have Lou Gehrig's disease? Brian's Song. That was the movie about him. And I think Billy D. Williams played his best friend in the movie. I'm old. Who fought a cancer diagnosis in the 1960s and who James Caan played in 1971 tearjerker Brian's Song. See? A few weeks later, my brother was baptized at the wooden baptismal font. That's what it says. A few weeks later, my brother was baptized at the wooden baptismal font that stood in the same place my parents had wed 4 years earlier. My parents settled into family life as Mom left the VA to stay home with him. Oh, Dennis and Paula had Brian. Decades later, Dad commented about the gap in murders that began after my brother's birth, saying, "We were now a family with a job and a baby. I got busy." Well, at least he knew where his priorities were, right? Dad murdered Shirley Vian Relford, a mom to 3 young children. In December 1977, when Mom was 3 months pregnant with me, Dad murdered 25-year-old Nancy Fox. My dad was raising children, yet he chose to take another mother away from her own children. He was about to have a daughter, yet took 2 more daughters away from their families. I was born early in the morning in June 1978 and baptized not long after. My name came from Dad's grandma, Kerri, and I shared his middle name, Lynn. Dad continued to play games with the police and media as BTK, leaving my hometown and my mom fearful. Then he went silent, ceasing communication the day after my first birthday. He graduated from WSU and said after his arrest, "I got busy being a family man, raising kids." But his Factor X wasn't ever that far from him. Now the next page is a very short paragraph. It says News Bulletin, June 1979. Today, the man who calls himself BTK for bind, torture, kill dropped off a letter at the post office in downtown Wichita. At 4 a.m., a man approached a clerk who was arriving to work. He handed her a letter and told her to put it in the box for KAKE, a local TV station. The clerk reported the man was around the age of 30, clean-shaven, with his hair cropped short above his ears. He was in an odd outfit for summer, wearing a jean jacket, jeans, and gloves. BTK is wanted for several murders dating back to 1974. If you have seen this man, please contact the authorities immediately. There's a number 1 after the word gloves. Let me go check that out and see what that means. What does that reference to? Breaking news. So she got that whole little news bulletin from Roy Wenzel. Bind, torture, kill, the inside story of BTK, the serial killer next door. On page 75. Gotcha. Yeah, because, I guess she just didn't know all the minute details. So even she had to research BTK and read various books and remember things that was written, and while she was writing her book, go and search in those books to corroborate the information that she wanted to convey in her book. Because she only knew Daddy. She only knew Dennis. She learned BTK right along with the rest of us. Isn't that freaking amazing? And I guess that's why I'm so fascinated with this case, because it's like, you think you know somebody. You find somebody, when you know, right, Paula? When you know, you know. And you have children with this man. He's a great provider. But you have no idea. You're laying next to him, going night-night, and he's fantasizing about bind, torturing, and killing. this people like this will forever trip me out. If you go back to Lacey and Scott Peterson, here she is pregnant, laying next to her husband, going night-night. He laying next to her as she drifting off to sleep, thinking about ways how he can murder her and be with Amber. Neither wives had a clue of the thoughts that were going through the mind of their husbands. Okay, so I am up to chapter 4. I'm going to pause and chill out for a little bit. Tell you the truth, I will probably come back in a little while. I just want to give my voice a break because yeah, I'm quite hoarse. But trust me, I'm returning to this because this is good. And before I sign off, I want to say thank you again to Kerri Rawson. That's a brave woman right there. And good for her. I'm glad that she has grown. I'm glad that she has overcome so much. And I'm not so sure if she's completely out of the woods. I'm not so sure if she will ever be completely out of the woods. I mean, is that even possible? But I'm glad that she has learned the tools and the skills to manage herself while being in the woods. God bless her, and I'll see you soon. Peace.